Hello, everybody. Good to see you here. So before I forget, or before we get started, I just want to mention a reminder that we'll do a memorial for Karita's friend um, uh, immediately after this, so like 8 o'clock on Zoom. So if you want to do that, if you've been attending those meetings regularly on Thursdays, should have gotten an email from me with the Zoom link. If not, email me between now and then. And before we start, I'll check my email and make sure that everybody who wants it has the Zoom link. So anyway, we'll begin with the verse of the Kesa. Vast is the robe of liberation, a formless field of benefaction. I wear the Tathagata's teaching, freeing all creations. Vast is the robe of liberation, a formless field of benefaction. I wear the Tathagata's teaching, freeing all creations. Vast is the robe of liberation, a formless field of benefaction. I wear the Tathagata's teaching, freeing all creations. Got to have atonement. All evil karma ever committed by me since of old, on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thought, now I atone for it all. All evil karma ever committed by me since of old, on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thought, now I atone for it all. All evil karma ever committed by me since of old, on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thought, now I atone for it all. The fragrance of this incense invites the awakened mind to be present with us now. The fragrance of this incense fills our room, protects and guards our minds from wrong thinking. Fragrance of this incense unites us with precepts, concentration, and insight. We offer it for all beings. Homage to the Buddha. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. I go to the Buddha for guidance. I shall become one with the Buddha. I resolve that I shall each day follow the way of life he laid down for us to walk and awaken to his supreme wisdom. I go to the Dharma for guidance. I shall become one with the Dharma. The gates of Dharma are manifold. I vow to enter them all. The goal of wisdom is ever beyond. I shall attain it. I go to the Sangha for guidance. I shall become one with the Sangha in the spirit of universal fellowship, and as a member of the Sangha, I pledge myself to strive for the enlightenment of all beings. The Metta Sutta. This is what should be done by one who is skilled in goodness and who knows the path of peace. Let them be able and upright, straightforward and gentle in speech, humble and not conceited, contented and easily satisfied, unburdened with duties and frugal in their ways, peaceful and calm and wise and skillful, not proud and demanding in nature. Let them not do the slightest thing that the wise would later reprove. Wishing in gladness and in safety, may all beings be at ease. Whatever living beings there may be, whether they are weak or strong, omitting none, the great or the mighty, medium, short, or small, the seen and the unseen, those living near and far away, those born and to be born, may all beings be at ease. Let none deceive another or despise any being in any state. Let none through anger or ill will wish harm upon another. Even as a mother protects with her life her child, her only child, so with the boundless heart should one cherish all living beings, radiating kindness over the entire world, spreading upward to the skies and downward to the depths, outward and unbounded, freed from hatred and ill will, whether standing or walking, sitting or lying down, free from drowsiness. One should sustain this recollection. This is said to be the sublime abiding. By not holding to fixed views, the pure-hearted one, having clarity of vision, being freed from all sense desires, is not born again into the world of suffering. May I be happy and well. May no harm come to me. May I learn compassion. May all my friends, family, and those I love be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. May all those troubled in body, mind, and spirit be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. May all those who have hurt me in body, mind, and spirit be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. May all those I have hurt in body, mind, and spirit be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. May all my enemies be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. May all living beings be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. Dee, what's the matter? My dog is acting strange. What's the matter? You okay? You want to sit with me? You can. He was acting really like he was afraid of something. He was walking all over the place like he's looking for something and like he's scared. So I have a dog in my lap. He sits with me frequently while I meditate in the morning. So he may sit with me while I meditate now. I hope that's not a distraction to you. You probably won't stay. All right. Try to ignore the dog. So, sorry about this. COVID, it's kind of like that's just kind of what happened with the world. We get to know each other's dogs and everything else. Anyway, we'll do a guided meditation tonight. This is the first Wednesday of the month. So guided meditations on the first and third Wednesday of the month. I'm not going to time it. It'll probably be about 15 minutes. If you're wanting to turn the sound off and meditate silently, I think you'd be probably pretty safe at 15 minutes. Take a few deep breaths. As always, let your abdominal muscles be nice and relaxed so your diaphragm can expand and contract smoothly, freely. And put your attention on the out breath. Nice long out breaths. And we'll mostly meditate on the breath, but let's start the meditation by setting the intention to develop happiness for ourselves and others. So as you exhale, just thinking to yourself, may I be happy. May I be free from animosity. May I be free from stress and affliction. May I look after myself with ease. May all beings be happy. May all beings be free from animosity. May all beings be free from stress and affliction. May all beings look after themselves with ease. Now bring your attention to the breath at the tip of your nose. And continue to elongate your out breath. Concentrating on the sensation of the breath moving across your upper lip as you breathe out. Then drop your attention down to the back of your mouth. And feel the breath flowing across that area where your sinuses open up at the top of your throat. Then down to the base of your throat. Center of your chest. Pit of your stomach. Then leave your attention there or back to wherever it feels comfortable to stay with the breath. Not breathing any special way, really, just breathing naturally. Making sure that out breath is nice and soft and long. And you can begin to scan your body. And remember the process. Establish your attention. Bring your awareness of the breath to that place where your attention rests, as if you were breathing through it. Any sensation that you encounter, or tightness or anything, you can let it go or just let it be. And you can work your way up from the feet, just bringing your attention there. Breathe. Anything tight, let it go. Anything that won't go, let it be. In both cases, you're really letting go. You're letting go of any idea that something should be different than it is, not judging anything, just being in the present moment without any attachments or aversions. Breathing in the body. Then up through your legs, maybe into the calves. The knees, hips, up through the belly, chest, shoulders, neck, up through your mouth and behind your nose, behind your eyes. Behind your forehead. And back to your belly or the tip of your nose. The bell will ring twice to end the meditation. When it rings the first time, just take a nice deep breath. Take a moment to be glad you are where you are. Bring your hands to your heart. When it rings the second time, bow and just take this moment just to be grateful. And the other dog is right where I need to put my feet. Yes, happy Cinco de Mayo. I'm actually going to talk about that. I'm going to give a Dharma talk about Cinco de Mayo. Hello, Carol. Hi, Catherine and Art. What do I do with it? There it is. Sorry, Jeff isn't able to be here. I hope he has a good reason for being at work, not because there's a catastrophe that needs his attention. So yeah, Cinco de Mayo, completely irrelevant to Buddhism. But nothing is really completely irrelevant to Buddhism. We can find a Dharma talk in just about anything. It's a Mexican festival that celebrates an important day in Mexican history. And in the U.S., it's kind of a celebration of Mexican culture or Mexican American culture. I think that's a good thing. It's a good excuse to eat Mexican food. I don't need an excuse to eat Mexican food, but I grew up in Texas, which obviously has a long history with Mexico. Not all of it pleasant. Cinco de Mayo is kind of a big deal in some parts of Texas, and Mexican food is definitely a big deal there. So, I grew up there, and I ate a lot of Mexican food. And so on Cinco de Mayo, when it happens to coincide with a service day, I like to talk about enchiladas. But Dharma enchiladas. So hopefully you had dinner, so you're not going to make you hungry. I'm actually not going to talk about food very much. But regular enchiladas feed your stomach and maybe your heart too. I've had some enchiladas that I think were, a spiritual experience. But Dharma enchiladas definitely, they feed your heart. So an enchilada, as you know, probably has kind of three main elements: has a wrapper, has a filling, and has a sauce. And so you can fill it with lots of things: chicken, beef, cheese, vegetables. You can wrap it in corn tortillas. That's the traditional thing. Some people use wheat ones. I don't think it works as well, but I think they tend to get a little soggy and soft. So I prefer corn tortillas. But anyway, you can have a green sauce, red sauce, white sauce. There's a lot of variation. But if you have the right elements, you put them together in the right way, you have an enchilada. So you might have a friend who likes enchiladas. Maybe you're a vegetarian, you like veggie ones. Maybe they like cheese ones or chicken ones. You like different things, and yet you both like enchiladas. And as Buddhists, our religion allows that kind of freedom to connect with the Dharma. We can practice Buddhism in very different ways and still be practicing Buddhism. For example, we've been in the Thursday Zoom meetings, we've been going through the Dhammapada, which is very, very classical Buddhism. Buddhism, the way the Buddha taught Buddhism. And the next thing we're going to do is go through the Pure Land Sutras, which are still Buddhism, but it's a little later down the road. It's culturally in a different place and very different. And yet it's both still Buddha Dharma, Buddha Sasana, Buddha practice. So like an enchilada, Buddhism has kind of three main components. You can have a lot of variety in how you put these things together. But as long as these three things are included, and assembled in kind of the right way, you're still practicing Buddhism. So I think it's helpful to start by thinking about why you might want to practice a religion. And you have your own answer for that probably, but in the case of Buddhism, the answer really is to end suffering, our own, and in Mahayana Buddhism, especially the suffering of others. That's not exclusive to Mahayana Buddhism, by the way. If you ever go to services at a Theravada temple, which many of us have, the end of services, you share the merit so that all beings benefit from what you just did. So sometimes when new people attend our meetings, this idea will come up, the idea of practicing a religion that's built around the awareness of dukkha, of stress and suffering, And afflictions of all kinds can seem like a bit of a downer at first, but people start out on a spiritual path because they're going through difficulties of one form or another. Um, and they're looking for a spiritual solution to spiritual problems, even though they might not even realize it at that point. So, people will come because they want community or because they're looking for comfort at a different time, or maybe they were with another religion and it doesn't seem to be meeting their needs, so on. So almost always an authentic religious search is born out of a desire to cope with some form of stress or adversity. So um, there are a couple of things that led Gautama to embark on the path to Buddhahood. When he was a child, he was taken to a plowing ceremony. His father was a ruler. And at the beginning of the growing season, his father, the king, would walk behind this jewel plow in a ceremonial groundbreaking. And his servants, his attendants, had taken him to watch this, and had put him down in the shade of a tree. And as he was watching his father doing this plowing, he saw that people were dancing and singing and having a great time. It was a big festival, like Cinco de Mayo. But then he noticed that the ox that was pulling the plow was not having a great time. And as the earth was turned over, worms and insects were being exposed, and birds were flying down to eat them. And so obviously the worms and insects were not having a great time. And this made him aware of the suffering inherent in the cycle of life and death. And so later, after the birth of Rahula, his son, that awareness of this cycle really came home to him. And so he developed this strong desire to find a path that people could follow to transcend suffering. And so this is where the recipe for our spiritual enchiladas, I really should stop. It's just almost getting silly, but it kind of works. Where that recipe starts to take form. So if you just want to learn to meditate because you're feeling stressed out about work or a family issue, Buddhism can help you with that. But the importance of religious practice, ideally, is that it treats the entire range of suffering, including minor stress and deep existential stress, and ultimately in Buddhism, the cycle of stress coming and going altogether. So a spiritual path should correctly identify the cause of the problem, not just see it on the surface. So somebody might be stressed out about their job, and you could tell them, well, you should change jobs. And maybe, but that's not really the source of the stress. Every job is stressful on some level. And so changing jobs really just moves your stress from one place to another. So your spiritual practice or your religion should treat the cause, not the symptoms. And if you want to cure a disease, you can't just take a painkiller so that you don't feel the aches and pains. You have to go after what's causing the illness that lies beneath the discomfort, and you have to treat that. There was a famous teacher who once compared the causes of suffering to venomous snakes that can have a painful poison that, when it reaches the heart, can kill you spiritually. And those poisons are things like attachment, aversion, delusion. They lead to mental habits like pride and jealousy and addiction, and the need to be seen as right all the time, and arrogance, and those kinds of things that steal our goodness from us and so poison us spiritually. So Buddhism is really a recipe for an antidote to those poisons. And it's a complete program. So when the Buddha gave his first talk, setting the wheel of Dharma in motion, he explained the path of freedom came from right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, right concentration. So if you're just looking at a list of ingredients like that, 8 ingredients, it doesn't really tell you what the whole dish is, right? And so an enchilada isn't just a bunch of ingredients. Again, you could look at it and go, well, there's corn and there's some vegetable oil, and there's some beans and some cheese, and there's all these things. But that's not what makes it a meal. What makes uh, what makes it a meal is a wrapper, a filling, and a sauce. And it helps us to understand our path better if we get to see how those 8 ingredients make up kind of 3 components of spiritual practice. So Buddhism is, wait for it, Buddhism is the whole enchilada. It's been probably 3 years since I've given a Dharma talk on Cinco de Mayo and gotten to say that Buddhism is the whole enchilada. I live for that kind of stuff. Just kidding. So anyway, so there are 3 trainings. The training in heightened virtue, the training in heightened mind, and the training in heightened understanding. So you don't just get virtue. You don't get, a heightened mind. You don't get wisdom. You practice those things. You put those things together, those factors of the path together in what you do, and that's the path of practice. So the first one, which I think you could kind of see it as the wrapper, is sila, heightened virtue. It's like it's what people see on the outside when they look at a Buddhist. And it holds everything else together. Your actions, living compassionately in the world, is what's going to hold all these other things together. Sometimes people refer to that as morality. Sila means morality. I don't like that word morality because in our culture, we generally kind of see something as moral or immoral based on some divine authority or maybe some judge, so even judging, the culture judging what's moral and what's immoral. And that's not how Buddhism views it. We're not talking about we're talking about the practice of living compassionately. So right speech, right action, and right livelihood. The point of the practice is to end suffering, both for ourselves and others. And so when we let go of actions of body, speech, and mind that cause harm to others, we're also developing habits of mind and habits of body that help us avoid harm as well. And when we do things out of kindness and charity, that actually benefits us spiritually also. So again, that's what looks external. If somebody goes, "Oh, there's a Buddhist, they're doing something, they're being kind." That's an outside thing. You can see that when you're looking at your practice. Heightened mind is the second ingredient. You could think of that in terms of stabilizing your mind so that you see more clearly. If you're looking at the Eightfold Path, that's right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. You can see that maybe it's like the filling on the enchilada. Buddhism is a practice of training the mind in order to transcend suffering. Wait till the motorcycle finishes going by. We cultivate states of mind that lead towards spiritual progress and that help us to abandon harmful ones. And so we cultivate compassion and kindness and equanimity, and we let go of those poisonous snakes that Ajahn Chah talked about, or Ajahn Lee, I can't remember which one it was. When we find them in our mind, when we find greed, when we find anger, when we find irrationality, delusion, we try to let that go. It comes up again because we're human beings and it's part of the karmic practice. But when they come up, we let them go, and so that they don't rule us and take us into harm's way. I once saw a Dharma talk by this Theravada monk named Bhikkhu Bodhi. And he was talking about the mind in terms of stones and pumpkins, which is an interesting analogy. He said an untrained mind is like a pumpkin. If you throw a pumpkin into a pond, it'll float on the surface and eventually drift out of reach. But if you throw a stone on the water, it penetrates all the way to the bottom and it stays anchored. And similarly, we can anchor the mind in a way that even if the wind stirs up our reality, our mind can still stay steady. Our attention penetrates deeply and remains anchored. So that's why we train the mind in meditation. That includes being aware of what's happening, but without adding a lot of interpretation and judgment to it. I talked not too long ago in a Dharma talk, I mentioned the analogy of the arrow, where someone got, had been harmed by someone. Someone had said something harmful or done something, disrespectful or whatever. And they were complaining to the Buddha, and the Buddha said, if you got shot with an arrow, would it hurt? And the guy said, well, of course it would hurt. And the Buddha said, if you got shot with 2 arrows, would it hurt twice as bad? And the guy said, well, of course it would. And the Buddha said, why do you keep sticking yourself with arrows? Somebody did something that caused you some pain, and then you keep reliving it and exacerbating it, talking about it and all of that, poking yourself over and over and over again. The thing that happened is gone. And we do that all the time. But if we learn to let our mind penetrate to the bottom and become anchored, then we don't let that happen to us as often. So if you practice heightened virtue and heightened mind, that's pretty good right there. But again, the whole enchilada includes a third ingredient. So you need wisdom, heightened discernment. You could think of wisdom as kind of like the sauce. So, in a really good enchilada, the sauce doesn't just lay on top. It kind of penetrates into everything. It really is what gives it its character, I think. And in Buddhism, the purpose of doing all of this is right view and right intention. So being aware of what leads to suffering and what leads away from suffering, and then setting our minds on doing what leads away from suffering, and and letting go of those things that lead to stress. So a lot of people practice non-harming. A lot of people practice meditation, and that's fine. But it's not really Buddhism unless you have right view and right thought as a part of your dish. So you have to understand, and this is not just Sensei Morris told me what leads to suffering now, so I'm good to go. It's really seeing in your life, what things that you do that lead to stress, and then working to abandon those things, to let those things go. This term abandon bugs some people because of its connotations, but we really mean setting it down and walking away from it, and we do these things that lead to our own stress all the time, and we really don't need to carry them around. We can set them down and move on. So it's not something you get out of a book. It's not a collection of facts or things that you heard in Dharma talks or whatever. It requires learning facts and ideas, but think about sort of cooking them into the mind and body with your practice until they come together and blend with the other factors of the path. So, when I grew up, I learned how to make enchiladas from my mom. And when she made enchiladas, she would mix the sauce into the filling and then wrap it up and then pour the sauce over the top. So it really is through everything. And so wisdom should be like that, that awareness of this leads to suffering. If I stop doing this, I'll stop suffering. That really should permeate your whole practice. You need some wisdom to know what right action is, to realize this, this action is harmful, this action is not harmful. And then combine wisdom and mindfulness to make sure that you stay on track, that you continue to do those things. So near the end of his life, the Buddha told his assembled monks to be lamps unto themselves. They had heard the teachings, they had understood them, they had memorized them, they remembered them. And basically, that's the reason the teachings exist today, is that monks used to memorize those things. And now it's up to them to sort of cook it into the dish, to continue to full realization until their own path is lighted by their own understanding. So the practices, like I said, the practices themselves can take many, many forms. As long as you've got those three main components, heightened mind, heightened virtue, heightened understanding, then you've got something that will sustain you on your path. So I hope that that wasn't too silly and that it was useful to you in some way. Um, so, like I said, we'll be on Zoom at 8 o'clock. I'll check my email before I start the meeting and see if anybody's looking for that link. Couple of other things to let you know. So I will not be at White Sands this weekend. For those of you who go to White Sands, I've mentioned this before, but just as a reminder, I'll be there next weekend, and I'll be there on the 30th for Buddha's birthday. The abbot will be there for Buddha's birthday, and I'm looking forward to seeing him, and I'm sure you are too. There's something else that I meant to mention tonight, and I should have written it down because it escapes me now. But oh well, if it was important, I'll tell you next time. So thank you very much for being here. Enjoy your Dharma enchiladas, whatever you do. If you go out for real Mexican food or whatever, be safe, wear a mask, have your Mexican beer and enchiladas out on a patio somewhere, maybe something like that. And I look forward to seeing you again soon. Buddha nature pervades the whole universe, existing right here now, and offering flowers, candles, and incense, hearing the Dharma and training the mind. Great merit is attained. We dedicate this merit to the great Master Shakyamuni Buddha, the all-pervading and everlasting three treasures, the 16 guardians and all protectors of the Dharma and their relations throughout space and time, all ancestors of the Sangha and all beings in the Dharma world. May penetrating light dispel the darkness of ignorance. Let all karma be resolved in the mind flower bloom in eternal spring. May the Dharma body maintain strength and health, and years of life be lengthened for all teachers of this Sangha. May their vows be fully realized, and may they live in perfect peace with Buddha Dharma. We pray for those suffering from violence and those who grieve for them, for those living in oppression, for all who are imprisoned who should be free, for all refugees from violence, hunger, and catastrophe, man-made or natural. We pray for the health and well-being of those suffering from diseases of body, mind, or spirit, those working toward the healing of those afflictions. May they be serene through all their troubles, and may we realize the enlightened way together. Sabe sata sadahantu avera sukha jivino katang punya phalang mayam sabe bhagi bhavantu te. May all beings always live happily, free from animosity. May all share in the blessings that spring from the good we have done. I remember what it was I wanted to mention. So remember, there's no Zoom meeting tomorrow night. Sorry about that. But my successors, I'll have family obligations. It's that time of year. It's tough for parents and other people too. So my suggestion is that you go to Our Lady of Lourdes Facebook page. I think it's even public. You may not even need to have a Facebook account to access it. I'm not sure. You might not have to be logged in because I think all their settings are public. Anyway, it's Our Lady of Lourdes, Daytona Beach. And my understanding is that they will be live streaming the service. And if you're in the Daytona Beach area, they are going to be having it outdoors. If you're vaccinated, it should be a nice night. So, maybe I'll see you there, or hopefully you can watch it on Facebook. So again, thank you very much. I'll see you in a little while.